Well, Spring, the Avs come home after having a successful three-game Canadian road trip. They'll play four games in front of the Ball Arena faithful. And this first one went about the way you expected it to. Detroit, second leg of a back-to-back, playing the same netminder that they were forced to play midway through the first period yesterday after Peter Mrazek goes out with an injury. They get the win against Utah. They have to stay in elevation going from Utah to Colorado. This one was all Avs, all early, all through the middle, all through the third. I think the wheels fell off Detroit late on this one, but this was a game where the Avs knew the task ahead of them. They knew exactly what they had to do, and they took care of business.
This was a scheduled win for the Avalanche, considering
Yep.
that Detroit played last night at altitude as well in Utah, and the Avs haven't played since Saturday night after a successful three-game road trip, winning 2 out of 3, and all three of those teams were above average opponents. I can say that about Ottawa and Montreal nowadays. And look, Detroit's right behind those two teams in the standings, but unfortunately, the schedule was not in their favor tonight. The Avs starting a homestand. And Detroit gets out to the 1-0 lead, but it's all Colorado the rest of the way. Dude, okay, here's my takeaway from this game. This is my take. And a lot of people will throw hot takes out there. We are in a sports culture, a sports media culture, where a lot of people will say something that might sound outlandish, and oftentimes it is. And they're doing it for clicks, though. They're doing it to get a reaction. They're going to say something that they think is out there, but it just gets eyeballs on them. And even though it might sound ridiculous, they just want the visibility. Okay, so I'm going to say something right now that I swear to you, I mean this, and it's going to sound hot takey, okay? And I've alluded to this in the past. I have hinted at my true feelings on this in the past. Raj, maybe you know where I'm going with this, but you know who the best player on the ice for Colorado was tonight? And I felt this way in the Toronto game, even though the Avs lost that game. And this man was the lone goal scorer in that game in Toronto. Weird game. Kelly Sutherland also scored in that game. Val Nichushkin. Here's it's going to sound like a hot take. But here it goes. I think he's better than Mikko Rantanen. And you're getting him at half the cost. He is so good. I love this player. And man, the human being, Val Nichushkin, encouraging. Seems like we're on a better track there, but dude, I mean, he scores the second goal of the game, and he nearly scores the first. We thought for a second he tipped in Cale Makar's shot, but no, he's just the body in front. That big body, man, and it's what I was thinking as I was watching this game tonight is, in baseball you got your 5 tools, you got your 5 tool players, the players who can do it all. Hit for power, hit for average, speed, defense. I can't even remember what the 5th tool is. From a tools perspective, look, Mikko might have more goal scoring skill.
He does. Yeah. Nichushkin will never score 55.
Sure. But from a 5 tools perspective, Val Nichushkin to me is a better player than Mikko Rantanen.
I would agree that Mikko Rantanen is not a 5-tool hockey player. I will agree with you there. And in terms of effectiveness, from a game-to-game basis, you can make the argument right now, because look at what's happened with Mikko since he left. You know the point pace he was on the day he was traded away from Colorado?
Very high.
107 was the point pace. He was ready to have just another 100-point season. Ho-hum, 107. Those things, as I've said before and often on this show, don't grow on trees. Would you like to know what his point pace is right now?
Much lower.
88. 88.
That's average. It's more
And
average.
and this team with Val in the lineup and healthy and playing every day, well, Spring, you want a hot take? They look fucking unbeatable. Like, I'm not saying that Detroit is they're not world beaters. There's a very good chance that they don't make the playoffs, but that is a desperate team. Yes, second leg of a back-to-back, playing a goalie that had to play 2.5 periods just an evening ago. I know that, and I'm not discounting all of that. I think just looking at, you saw the stats today. Their last 10 home games, they're unbeaten. They're 50% of the power play. Yeah, Detroit's terrible on the PK. You go 2 for 2 on the power play tonight. They look dominant, and Nichushkin is a main reason why. And all you have to do is look back at the data for the last two postseasons. If he's in there, do they win cups the last 2 years? Who knows? What I do know for certain is that they don't get bounced by Seattle in round one. What I do know for certain is that at the very least, it's a 7-game series against Dallas. And the data from this year shows that you probably end up beating Dallas last year, even with Alexander Georgiev in net, and you move your way to the West Final. Who knows if you run into the Edmonton buzzsaw and they still get to the Cup final at that point. But with him in the lineup, it is not a first and a second round exit. It's not as in the 6-game exit to Dallas. Didn't it feel like it was that was kind of a gentleman's sixth game? You're like, yeah, you're here. We get you. But like they controlled that thing. It should have been over early in the first overtime. He's everything. He is absolutely everything. He's not going to score 55. He's not going to put up 115 points, but he's going to affect every single game he plays in and every game he doesn't.
It's the other end of the ice too. It's defensively, it's on the penalty kill. I think that the best. I really think, and you see what other teams throw out there. I think the best forward penalty kill combination in the NHL is Valeri Nichushkin and Arturi Lehkonen. I think when those two are out there as forwards, and so the fact that Val, plays on the PK, plays on power play one, and there's other players in the league who do that, but playing on the top line now with Nathan MacKinnon, and man, that top line with Val, Nate, and Drouin, and I've wanted Val on that top line. I'm glad he's back up there. I'm glad that it's finally truly coming to fruition from him. I mean, and somebody let me pull this up, from Tattle W. I don't know. Look at the record with Val and without. So I'm counting it up right now. In the last 18 games that Val has played, and some of this was he missed time with injury. The Avs are 16-1-1. Since he came back from injury, they are 11-1-1. It's this guy it's the size, it's the speed, I've talked about the radius that he skates with. He never gets too wide or out of control. His net front presence is incredible. No, they needed him in the Dallas series last year. And look, Dallas just keeps winning. And I kind of wish it would be a flip from last year. Dallas had home ice last year. I kind of wish Colorado would get home ice last year just to shake things up and see how that would go. But really, the true difference will be having Val and a healthy, a largely healthy core around Val. If MacKinnon goes out, you can have Val all day. You're screwed. But I'm hoping that Val will be the difference, home ice or not. They didn't have Val in the Dallas series last year. We sure as hell hope they will this year. I really think that will be the difference. That player, and let's not forget that he was a 10th overall pick by the Dallas Stars. And all these years later, I think he's the key. He is the key to the upcoming Stars Avs series.
There was a time where Alexander Ovechkin looked at him when he was taken 10th overall by Dallas, right? And Ovi looked at Nichushkin and told media, that's the next stud. out of Russia. That's the player you have to watch out for. And there was a point where he was almost out of the league. I mean, I remember the first handful of games that we watched him here in Colorado. We on this show, I said verbatim, this is exactly what I said. I said I don't need to see Valeri Nichushkin play another game in an Avalanche uniform. I said that.
No, I
And
was with you. I was with you.
I don't know what they tapped into. I don't know what he tapped into. But according to StatMuse, the Avs are now 26-8-1 with Val Nichushkin in the lineup from 2024 to 2025. It's
Yeah,
insane.
he is that big. Look, Brock Nelson and Charlie Coyle add size, but they don't move like Val Nichushkin, and that goes to show how hard it is to find a player with size who can also skate. Now, Mikko Rantanen can skate for a guy who has size, but then you factor in the other end of the ice, you factor in the defense, you factor in the checking, you factor in the penalty kill ability, and that to me is where Val is a more complete player than Mikko Rantanen, and therefore, in my opinion, a better player for half the price. It is one of the biggest, it is, I say one of, it is the biggest bargain in all of the NHL, just over $6 million per year. Look, here, and this is interesting too, Val just turned 30 years old. It almost feels like he's younger than that. They are in a little window right now. McKinnon's 29, Val's 30. You're starting to get a little older. You're in your prime right now. Now is the time. But the player has got to remain available. And should that happen, the ceiling for this team is a Stanley Cup.
Yeah, if he's in the lineup, without a doubt. If he isn't, then it becomes a toss-up. Like I still think that if everything goes their way, like if you've got good goaltending and Val isn't in the lineup, you can still make some noise. Do I think you can get through the gauntlet of the Western Conference without him? The chances are slim. Right, because of how good it is. You mentioned that Dallas refuses to lose right now. Winnipeg has 102 points after beating Washington in overtime this evening 3-2. They're the first team in the Western Conference to officially lock up their playoff spot. And that was the matchup tonight of the best in the East against the best in the West. That was a really good hockey game. Ovi scores yet again. He is 6 away from breaking the all-time record held by Wayne Gretzky. That lived up to its billing. The West is terrifying. And you have to kind of hold your breath on what's happening with Connor McDavid and Leon Draisaitl out there in Edmonton if you're an Oilers fan, because they will be out for an extended period of time, likely the remainder of this week at least. If those guys aren't healthy, Edmonton is not a factor. If they are, then they showed you what they can do last year with mediocre goaltending and a subpar blue line, right? Like they were a period away from winning a Stanley Cup championship last year with all of those issues. If those two guys aren't the lineup, you can't win. Nichushkin he's of the same ilk for me, man. I don't know if are there other players on Western Conference teams that you look at that are that vital to their team's success? Like you take Nichushkin out of the Avs lineup and you go from cup favorite to, are they getting out of the second round? What are the other players in the West that you think have that same effect?
Well, I mean, look, on the Avs, on the Avalanche itself, it would be McKinnon and Makar. But the reason we single out Val Nichushkin has been, the trend of the past two playoffs. For Winnipeg, it's their goaltender. Dallas, look, they're filled with a bunch of very good. I wonder, because I think Val Nichushkin is a better player than Mikko Rantanen. I don't know if there's a single player on the Dallas Stars as effective as Val Nichushkin. The Avs are looked at as we talk about the two superstars, McKinnon and Makar. There is a third. There is a third superstar on that team. It's almost like, there's voter fatigue with Jokic in the MVP. We might be seeing voter fatigue right now with McKinnon in the Hart. I don't think nationally people want to say, oh, there's a third superstar on this team, because they almost don't want to accept that reality because of what that implies, what that means, that Colorado has 3 of those dudes while, losing Mikko Rantanen. They can't even wrap their head around, oh, there's actually another player on that roster. So they don't want to go there. They don't want to go there with Nichushkin in the Avalanche. It's McDavid and it's Draisaitl. Now, those players are better than Val Nichushkin, okay? I'm not saying Val is on that level. I'm not saying he's on the level of McDavid or Draisaitl. And a lot of this is what I think about Mikko Rantanen as well. It's funny. I've seen people post on social media like, man, I didn't realize how much of a Nathan McKinnon merchant Mikko Rantanen was when you look at, how he's performed since. And I could have told you that. Like the watching the Avs and Rantanen night in and night out, the numbers were great, the stats were great, but when you watched it, you understood that, oh man, he's really benefiting from Nate. And when I watched Val, like he's a completely different entity. His size and his net front presence, that is a different entity from Nathan McKinnon. Now, again, I'm not claiming that he's McDavid, Draisaitl, or McKinnon or McCarr. He is in that Rantanen tier, that next tier, but I'm going to put him just slightly above that or above Mikko. I am. You mentioned McDavid and Draisaitl, though. Look, that's who Dallas plays next. That's who Dallas plays tomorrow night. How fortunate is that Dallas is going to get Edmonton without those two players?
I mean, if you don't find a way to beat that Edmonton team, it's a big issue. That might be the game that if Dallas loses that game tomorrow, I change my tune on points don't matter anymore for the Colorado Avalanche, because that's where I am right now. Like, points don't matter. I have been resigned for the last like week and a half, 2 weeks, probably even more than that. To the Avs are going to Dallas in round one, just because there's too many points and too many games in hand that Dallas gets to make up over the course of the next 3 weeks, 3.5 weeks. The playoffs start on April 19th of this year. I think there's too many points to make up, but if they drop a game like that and Colorado is as hot as they are on home ice, maybe I'll change my tune a little bit. You mentioned Dallas. You can't pick out a player that you would say you remove from the team and you go, I'm not really that scared about them anymore. I think Jake Ottinger is probably that guy, but it's a testament to who Dallas is as a team up and down their lineup that like you can't choose one player that you would remove from the lineup and it changes your thought process on them, right? Like we're talking about Dallas right now not losing hockey games, and you can make the argument that their very best skater isn't in the lineup, and that's Miro Heiskanen. So
Heiskanen would be the top of my list. And what's funny about that is that he's not even Cale Makar.
No, he's not. He's the next tier down.
He would be, to me, their best overall player.
Yeah, I do think he's their best overall player. Some fans would make the argument that Jason Robertson might be that guy, or the most important player on that team might be a Tyler Seguin come playoff time. But for me, it's Heiskanen. Also, did you see what the freaking St. Louis Blues have been doing as of late? They win again, 7 straight, 8-1-1, 83 points, and they now have a 4-point lead with a game in hand over the next place team in the wild card race. That's the Vancouver Canucks. Watch out. I'm telling you, it might be the best thing in the world for Avs fans that the St. Louis Blues are red hot under Jim Montgomery. You know why, Spring? Because the Winnipeg Jets, unfortunately, are going to have to play that freight train.
If St. Louis doesn't catch Minnesota, and that to me is a possibility that St. Louis could actually end up getting the 7 seed, aka the top wild card spot, and would then play the winner of the Pacific Division. But no, I would be rooting for right now. St. Louis is they're a dangerous wild card team, and I'm rooting for them to play Winnipeg because I want Winnipeg the hell out of there. What a story. And to see what Boston's season has become after firing Jim Montgomery, and then what St. Louis's season has become is quite the dichotomy. And
Oh, it's unlike, I would say it's unlike anything we've ever seen. But we saw St. Louis do this
sure,
in 2019. Like we saw them go on a run like this. From They weren't quite worse this year, but we've seen the franchise do something like this. What you're referring to is the Boston Bruins are on a crash course for like a top 5 pick this year.
the Bruins just lost in San Jose. The first time that the Bruins have lost to the Sharks overall since 2016. That's how bad of a way the Bruins are in a terrible way right now. The
They're
Bruins
so
play the
bad.
the Bruins play the Ducks tomorrow night. Love the Ducks tomorrow night. Love them. And St. Louis and Jim Montgomery, man, they're red hot. And that's an interesting part about this little 4-game homestand that the Avs are on. Is it'll be the Kings on Thursday night. I'll talk about the Kings real quick. Mention their astounding home record. The Kings are hosting. They're at home again, hosting the New York Rangers tonight, who have had a mediocre season. This game is approaching the end of the second period. New York actually had a 1-0 lead, but the Kings have tied it up, and the Kings are at home. The Kings are 25-3-4 at home. On the road, they are 14-18-5. So the Kings will now go on the road and come to Colorado on Thursday night. Look, I think the Avs win that game. I think the Kings are a completely different team on the road, and I think the Avs will continue the trend. The Kings will continue their trend. And then you have this game on Saturday where now all of a sudden the Avs are playing a red-hot Blues team, and the Avs and Blues are 1-1 against each other this season. Remember a few weeks ago, the Avs lost in St. Louis. In fact, was it the first or the second game out of the Four Nations? I think it was the second game out of the Four Nations.
Yeah, because they lost to Nashville in
Yes.
game 1. It
Yes.
was we
And
were the
oh my
sky was the
gosh,
sky
bad
felt like it was
loss.
falling.
But look at St. Louis is a very good team. So that's going to be an interesting one on Saturday. And hell, let me not overlook the Kings entirely on Thursday night because they are a good team, but I see a clear difference between home and road Kings this season. So very interesting 2 games here on this 4-game homestand coming up for Colorado. But yeah, no, all of a sudden there is a dangerous wild card team lurking in the Western Conference that could take out either Winnipeg or Vegas. So for that, let's go Blues. Because there's no way, and I know there's a Blues fan in the chat, there is no way that this Blues team will do what they did in 2019. They don't have Ryan O'Reilly. They don't have Alex Pietrangelo. It's not happening. They're a fun story, but they are not winning the Cup this year. It will be Colorado. And you know what's funny is Dallas. The Dallas Stars are the favorites to win the Stanley Cup right now. I don't get that.
I don't get it either. There's something's going on in Vegas, man, right now that like McKinnon's gonna have a 9 or a 10 point lead in the race for the Art Ross. He's gonna run away with that thing. He's gonna start to expand his lead on Nikita Kucherov and Leon Draisaitl. The Avs are gonna continue to be this red hot team that no one wants to play in the playoffs, and his MVP odds really aren't getting all that much better. The same thing is happening with the Stanley Cup odds. I don't get the futures.
And it's because in like we like to compare right now this Avs team to the Cup team in 2022. But first off, with that 2021-2022 season when they won the Stanley Cup, the Avs were the favorites from the odds makers had the Avs as the favorites and fairly clear favorites. Now, plus 400 when you're dealing with a field of 32, being a plus 400 favorite is actually pretty solid. Like the Stars are coming in at like plus 600 right now. So the odds makers like the Avs all season long in the season they won the Cup. And I agreed with that. You looked at that Avs team, the roster on paper, the way they played throughout the entire year, it checked out. Now this year with Dallas being the favorite, and now granted, it's more in the plus 600 range, but that's still odd to me that they're getting the best odds. But when I looked at that Avs team with the season they won the Cup and were favorites, it checked out to me. Like I could match the odds to the team. This one, I can't do that.
Spring looks like we got
hey, what's up, boys?
in from
It's
Ball
your guy,
Arena.
D-Mac.
D-Mac, can you hear us,
man,
brother?
5-2, good win by the Avs. It is remarkable to think they are 13-0-1 against the Red Wings, and the last Red Wings win in Denver was outside at Coors Field in 2016. The Red Wings are fighting for a playoff spot, and I think they played their hardest. They did what they could. They had a game yesterday in Utah, and I think that's tough. Jared Bednar said after the game, too, that his team was a little, tough on the legs after the Canadian road trip and just a 1 day off. So they didn't have their same juice and their same spark. But, this team is so deep, guys. I mean, it is kind of absurd what's going on. I mean, when you're having conversations about Logan O'Connor being a healthy scratch and, everybody has their role to play, and you look at, who's not playing sometimes for the Avs, it's kind of crazy. Good to see Gerard back in, Eric Johnson dealing with the lower body, whatever. But kind of who cares? 3-point night for Taves. Taser with a laser, right? 3 points for him. He's wearing the big hat. He's in a pretty good mood, and everything was pretty chill. I mean, it's so bizarre to not have much more to say or the level of excitement about a Red Wings game, and got to kind of stretch to when this was a rivalry. But, I mean, when you beat a team over and over and over again for now years on end, I mean, how much of a rivalry can it actually be? I will say Detroit fans represented in this one. I mean, they were all over the place. They've got a great fan base. But, I mean, I don't know, man. From a Detroit point of view, to see what these teams used to be and see what these teams are now, it's got to be kind of a come-to-Jesus moment. And it is what it is. But, they don't have to worry about the Avs. They play in the East, not the West. And the Avs are rolling, guys. I mean, Jonathan Drouin just said he couldn't explain why they're so good at home, as this is their 10th win in a row at home. And I don't see anything stopping anytime soon. I asked Bednar, do you care about seeding? Because when you look at it, I mean, what are we fighting here for? I mean, how much are you going to kill yourself? And he admitted that he's heard the criticisms that he's put McKinnon on the ice too much, and he's happy to have nights where time on ice isn't really overwhelming for Nathan McKinnon. So we'll see. We'll see what they have to do. Bednar said they wouldn't exhaust anything. They want to win games. Sure, they'd like to have home ice, but it's nothing that they're overly worried about. The destiny, guys, most likely is Dallas one way or the other. And I think they feel fine about it. So I don't know what to say, man. It's a good, really solid win. For every win the Nuggets get, it feels like a miracle. For every win the Avs get, it feels like we're punching the clock 9-5. Not a bad thing, good thing. When they're not even at their best, their depth is so good that they're strong enough to win games relatively easy, as they did tonight. So as the Zamboni gets cracking and they flip the ice to the hardwood for the Nuggets and the Bucks, I'll bid you a fond farewell from Ball Arena.
All right, there he goes. That is Darren McKee, a.k.a. D-Mac of Columbus Hastings, and D-Mac every weekday from noon to 3 following the morning sprint with Alex Ryan-Emmy. Raj, D-Mac talking right there about this Avs-Red Wings rivalry and the dominance that the Avs have had in this rivalry of late, and I'm counting it up right now. I think I have this right. The Avs are 13-0-1 in their last 14 against Detroit.
They've dominated them. Did you know that Detroit hasn't won a hockey game in Colorado since when?
Oh boy,
it was a landmark hockey game. That is the only hint I'll give you.
The Coors Field game.
The Coors Field game in 2016 is the last time the Detroit Red Wings won a game in the state of Colorado.
It's a shame. It's a shame. Berto asked me on the Blitz tonight, am I happy that the Wings or that the Avs have dominated this rivalry, at least this matchup, this head-to-head series, and that the Wings have largely been not good. They're better now, but they're still on the outside looking into the playoffs. And, Berto asked me that thinking maybe I'd be like, oh, yeah, I harbor, hate in my heart for Detroit so much from the great rivalry of the 90s and early 2000s that I'm like, yeah, screw those guys. But honestly, I would rather these games mean something. Like this is Avs Red Wings is the best rivalry in hockey of my lifetime.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
And I don't think what would even be number two? What would be number two,
Uh,
Raj?
Leafs, Bruins, all those first and
Okay.
second round playoff series, the Nazem Kadri thing. There's a lot of hatred there. A lot of hatred there. Um, but that's probably it, right?
I
Maybe
would agree.
maybe you can put up vintage like Washington Pittsburgh when Ovi just couldn't get through Sidney Crosby, even though Washington was winning President's trophies and Ovi was winning MVPs and Rocket Richards. Every time they got to the playoffs, it was like, nope, Sidney Crosby and Evgeny Malkin and Chris Letang are gonna beat your ass and go win another Stanley Cup. That could have been another one, but nothing, and I mean nothing, ever came close to the violence, the hatred, the blood that those series between 1995 and 2004. I suppose you could probably go, yeah, 2004, because Detroit started to like really take off there, um, as compared to like where the Avalanche actually were.
Yeah.
Nothing compared to it.
Yeah, so it's a shame to me that like if Detroit would have been better over the last I mean not even the last decade cuz the Avs struggled in the middle of the last decade. But man, then the Avs take off at the end of the 2010s. And if Detroit could have been right there with them, and yeah, it never would have been the same as what it was in the 90s and early 2000s, mostly because they're in different conferences now and they're only playing twice a year. But at least, man, if Detroit was good like Colorado has been, those two matchups every season would have felt like something.
And it's gotta kill Stevie Yzerman right now too, right? Like, because Yzerman he created the version of the Tampa Bay Lightning that won their cups. Was he actually at the helm when they did it? No. Julian Breezebaugh was technically the GM of those teams. He had left prior to them winning, but like Yzerman's hands had built that whole thing. Much like Tim Connolly, right? He built the Nuggets. Was he here when they won? No. But was he responsible for 90% of the reason why they won? Yes. That was kind of Yzerman with the Bolts. He leaves, Sakic brings his team, beats the Bolts, and then Yzerman comes over for the Yzer plan in Detroit, and he's kind of looking up at Joe going, how the hell do I build that? And they just haven't knocked the door down yet.
Well, this is where a ton of credit to the coach, to Jared Bednar, because it takes, and Detroit has, or they had opportunities at the same model in terms of you have to hit on your high draft picks. So, the Avs hit on McKinnon, and they hit on Makar, and they hit on Rantanen, 10th overall pick Rantanen.
Yep.
For Detroit, it would be Lucas Raymond. It would be Mo Seider. Now, I say credit to Jared Bednar because I think Bednar took McKinnon to another level. So it's not just having the picks and having the good names, it's developing them, and it's them living up to that first overall top 5, top 10 pick potential. That happened with Colorado. McKinnon, Makar, Rantanen, and then what you've turned Rantanen into. So for Detroit, it's Raymond, it's Seider, and that is such a high bar that you have to get to McKinnon Makar level.
Yeah, and you have to have the superstar. And I don't believe Detroit has that superstar, right? When they were amazing, they had Steve Yzerman, they had Sergei Fedorov, they had Nicholas Lidstrom and Henrik Zetterberg and Pavel Datsuk. They had all of these players that were Hall of Fame worthy, that were also they were flanked by really, really solid depth pieces, much like the Avs are flanking Nathan McKinnon and Cale Makar with guys like Devon Taves. Is Devon Taves a Hall of Famer? Probably not, but he'll be looked back at as one of the best depth pieces in the history of the Colorado Avalanche. The same thing goes for what they've built with the center depth and Charlie Coyle and Brock Nelson. The winger, is Val Nichushkin a Hall of Famer? No, he's not going to be a Hall of Famer. But you'll look back at Val and go, especially if they win multiple cups, right? Like if they confirm the cup championship with number 2 and then, knock on your wood that they somehow get 3, like you'll look back at Val and go, does that jersey need to go in the rafters? Like, I'm serious. That those are the conversations you have. You look at the Milan Hayduks of the world, right? Is Milan a Hall of Famer? No, he's not. But he's the guy that you go, it's up there at Ball Arena, isn't it?
Yeah, no, you have to have the superstars. And the teams of late that have won cups have had those superstars. Even last year, look, we just saw in the Four Nations. Is he on Nate's level? No, he's not. But Matthew Tkachuk is a superstar in a way. He is. You know, Barkov is not on that elite level, but he's pretty damn good.
He's so freaking good.
And these are just much better players than what Detroit is offering.
100%. You know who Barkov is? Barkov is Val Nichushkin with 100-point potential.
Sure. No, yeah, I've mentioned I see a lot of similarities in Barkov's and Nichushkin's game, but I will concede that Barkov is Barkov's a more complete player. Like that is an underrated player. Left-handed shot like Mikko, like Val, but more like Val, he's more complete. More like Mikko, he's a little more skilled, and that's Val doesn't quite have that elite level skill, but my God, in every other aspect, he's so good. Val would be the best player on the Red Wings, and it wouldn't even be close. It wouldn't even be close right now. I like Lucas Raymond, but Patrick Kane's older. Like, Val would be the best player on a lot of teams in the NHL. It is hard to find players of even that level.
He just needs to stay in the lineup, man. It's amazing that one, God forbid something happens, this conversation flips to what we did just north of a year ago, where we're going, you can't play again for this team. You can't do it. And that was the conversation after the game where we just went, in what world is this happening again? And that's where you have to, unfortunately, I wouldn't say pump the brakes, but I've always said that the monster under the bed will never go away. Does it mean that you can't sleep anymore? No, you can go to sleep, but it's always there and it will always be there. It's always going to be in the closet. You're always going to be thinking about it at some point. It's not going to overwhelm you. It's not going to stop you from walking about your room, doing your chores, again, sleeping through the night. It'll always be there. It's never going away for the entirety of his career. It's always going to be in the back of your mind. And it just takes one slip up for us to go, he could drastically change 20 out of the 32 clubs in this league, if not more, just by being on their roster. And one slip up, we would have that conversation and going to, is he the reason why this all-time Hall of Fame core only gets one?
It's Val Nichushkin is very much so part of the reason why the Avs were so aggressive at the trade deadline, because, all right, you got your two superstars, right? You got McKinnon, you got Makar, and, we've learned, I think we know now when you look at how, like, especially Toronto is constructed, you can only really be paying truly high-level money to two guys. And right now it's McKinnon, and coming up here pretty soon it's going to be Makar. And to have Nichushkin, who is borderline elite, who is knocking on that door, but you got this guy at $6 million per. Like, you have to take advantage of that. And that, to me, is part of the reason why they were so aggressive at the deadline. It's not just Nate. It's not just Kale. It's Val as well. And yeah, if he can just keep his head, and you know what, I'm encouraged. You see, he's had his games of late where he's worn the big hat, where the players are embracing him, and you can see the smiles on Nichushkin's face in these good moments, the way that he is connecting with his teammates. I'm optimistic that the message has been received, and the message should be clear that you are fortunate to be in this position. Now, I'll concede this, Val Nichushkin, you're underpaid. You should be getting paid more, but hey, I'm not making $6 million. $6 million per is still pretty damn good. Don't kick that out
The
of
great thing
bed.
about the NHL, man, there's no holdouts. There's no contract renegotiations. There's no moving money around. You sign that deal, you play that deal, man. And you know what? Sure, you underpaid. But the other thing that I would look at from a front office perspective, and it's kind of ruthless, right? Because it is a personal battle. And we've had these conversations about Val and addiction issues, whether it's painkillers or extracurriculars. It's a personal battle. And I don't wish those demons on anyone. From a front office standpoint, if that were to ever be a thing, and again, in the NHL, it's not. So you luckily don't have to cross this battle. But for the sake of the argument and the sake of the segment, let's do that. I would look at that agent and I would go, you think he's underpaid? After what could happen, you think he's underpaid? He isn't. That's the tax that you're paying right now. He's amazing when he's on the ice, but the reason why he's not a $12 million player right now is because we don't know if we can count on him. So guess what he is? 6.175. That's your tax. You take it, you deal with it. Again, it's National Hockey League. Luckily, that's not an issue.
That's a fair point. That's honestly a fair point. But that helps the flexibility of the team tremendously when you have
yes, it does.
So it's that, and again, that's back to my point of it's all the more reason of why, yes, McKinnon, yes, Makar, but that player at 6, you go for it. You go for it right now, and they did that. And yeah, for Val too. I mean, you just hope he realizes that, and I think he does, that what an opportunity, to be on this team. And man, look at how seriously they took a freaking exhibition tournament just a month or so ago. Like, this matters. Like winning in this sport matters. And what an opportunity you have to win your second Stanley Cup here this season. I honestly think that Val Nichushkin will remain with the team the rest of the season.
Oh, yeah. Again, and while I say the monster's never leaving the underside of the bed, the reason why I say that is because it can always happen, right? And you would be an idiot not to think about it a lot. I also think you would be an idiot to think that it's guaranteed to happen again. You have to operate. I've said this before. The team has to operate. The players have to operate. And I would urge fans to operate in this same fashion, is that you forget about it, right? It's always going to be there. The door's always going to be cracked a little bit, but you just can't think about it, because if you continue to think about it, it will cripple you. To continue to take my monster under the bed and sleeping analogy, if you continually think about the monster under the bed, you're going to lie awake at night trembling, looking at your ceiling, because God forbid you fall asleep, that thing reaches up and it's going to grab you, right? You have to put it out of your mind so that you can sleep soundly at night. And that's what the Avs have to do with Val. It's what they've done so far. And that has to be the remainder of your existence with him as a fan, as a player, and as a staff member.
Yeah, and a part of me feels bad, but it's also just the reality of the situation that and Val has been so good. You look at the record for the Avalanche when he's been in the lineup of late, it's astounding. I mean, it's an insane record. And here he is impactful on the first 2 goals of the night, the 2 biggest goals of the night, and he's an impact all night long. He's back on the top line. So when he has a game like this and we sing his praises, now because of the past, there comes the caveat of, oh, we also have to talk about this. And I wish it wasn't that way. I feel like, oh, if Val was to listen to this show, if he was listen to another show that was praising him, it'd be like, guys, can you just talk about the great player I am? And it's like, man, I am, and I want to. But we also have to, unfortunately, due to the past, throw these caveats in there. But again, like it feels like, and look, he missed that time with injury recently, before the Four Nations, and then we get back from the Four Nations, going back to that Nashville St. Louis game. He's not back yet. But hey, we saw he was on the ice, he was practicing. When he initially went out with injury, and this is what happened in the playoffs last year and even the year before, it didn't even cross my mind. I wasn't even the second time. It didn't even cross my mind because I'm naive. And I'm just like, I didn't even cross my mind that, he did it again. And initially when he went out with injury, before the Four Nations, it didn't even cross my mind. And then somebody brought it up and I was like, shit. Is this what's happening again?
An injury brings in painkillers into the situation. Yeah, it's a miserable existence to live as
or
a fan.
that it's an injury. They just don't want to tell us the truth, But no, lo and behold, he's back on the ice and practicing, and then he was actually back in game action, and he's better than ever. So, look, he's had his opportunities to, go off the wagon, and he hasn't. So, to me, that's very encouraging.
Question here before we get out and kill the show for the evening. Is Jacob Chychrun worth $72 million?
Yes. Yes, he is a very good defenseman.
He's pretty good.
And look at what Washington has done this season. Is this his first or second year with the Caps?
This is his first year with the Caps, if I'm correct.
First year, even more so. First year, and look at what they are. And we saw him with the Coyotes. He's a good player who is on an average team, and clearly somebody that Washington targeted as a savvy pickup. Yeah, no, he coincides with the Capitals' success this year. It's a well-deserved contract.
Yeah, I think at the end of it, it might get a little sketchy. Like $9 million feels a little steep, but knowing that the cap's going to continue to jump up, it's going to be pretty solid. That's a good deal. He comes from really good stock. He's a 16th overall pick back in 2016. In a loaded first round. This was the Matthews draft. It goes Matthews, Laine, Pierre-Luc Dubois, Matthew Tkachuk was in that. Clayton Keller was in that. Mikhail Sergachev was drafted by Montreal in that entry draft. That was Tyson Jost's 10th overall pick by the Avs that season. Charlie McAvoy goes 14. Chychrun goes 16. What other excellent players are in there? Trent Frederick, solid player, nothing to write home about, but solid first round there. He's got the pedigree to do it. I think 72 is a little bit of an overpay right now, but I think 3-4 years from now, it looks like an amazing deal. 7 years from now, who knows?
Well, you got to add those years to maybe get that number down. $9 million per. That's Kale's making 9.5, but that's the market. That's inflation. Kale signed his deal a few years ago. When Kale signs his new deal here coming up after next season, I think is when he is up. He's going to make 12 plus. So that's the market nowadays. I think Chychrun at 26 years old, good two-way player, offensively and defensively. Yeah, that's to me a fair market deal. Yes, Washington's probably going to hate that a little bit at the end, but that's just the way it goes.
Imagine the slap in the face if Kale abides by the internal Nathan McKinnon cap. The slap in the face to Rantanen and his agent and the rest of the league going, we understand it here. We get it. Because Kale could make $15 million, and I go.
No, that's exactly what I was gonna say. Is the money Mika wanted, Kale could actually get as a defenseman. Yet Kale, like you said, Raj, could do what Miko wouldn't do, and that's actually take a little bit of an Avs discount.
Yeah,
if he doesn't, I won't begrudge Kale at all.
Give me 12.5 over 8. I'll be fine. I'm good. He just seems like that dude.
Well, he's the best person in the world. But if Kale didn't take it even a little, I wouldn't begrudge Kale at all. You've earned everything.
No, if he stays healthy for his career, he will go down. There is a very good chance he goes down as the greatest defenseman ever to play the game if he stays healthy. Like, he will be up there with Orr and with Bork. He'll put up those types of points. He's that good. He'll put up coffee types of points, even with goalies that can actually stop pucks.
And
If he
those are
wants
the types of
15 million,
players.
I'm okay with it.
Those are the types of players that I want setting the market. Again, and no offense to Mikko Rantanen, but when you want what you wanted, then I'm going to be critical. And Kale he is everything that he's going to ask for, that he's going to deserve, and then some. So when Mikko is asking for 13, 14, I'm going to be critical. If Kale wants that, if Kale wants 15, if Kale wants 16, the limit does not exist. I mean, that he is an all-time Hall of Famer. That's what he is.
This ignorant comment, and Guru, I love you, buddy, but it's such an ignorant comment, thinking that all Cale Makar does is score. His possession numbers are unbelievable. His shot suppression numbers are absolutely astounding. There's a wide range of hockey experts that believe that not only is Bobby Orr the greatest defenseman of all time, Bobby wasn't the biggest guy, but he shut players down. It was a different time. He hits, he defends close, he dispossesses players with the puck. And the reason why he's going to be able to stay healthy is because he doesn't have to go out of his way to be Scott Stevens, right? He is an unbelievable hockey player. And he goes, so does the greatest forward also need to be a great defender too? Yeah, I think the greatest forward of my generation, and a guy who will go down on the Mount Rushmore of hockey, is Sidney Crosby. And Sidney Crosby is one of the best defending forwards of his generation. So don't get that ignorant shit out of here, all right? Yes, the answer is if he stays healthy, he will go down as one of the greatest defensemen overall, all around, scoring or not scoring, in the history of the game.
Well, Raj, you just brought up the numbers, and then, over the past couple weeks on this show, we have pointed out several defensive plays that Cale Makar has made that are a noticeable jump to, like, oh crap, he's truly grown into his man body at 26 years old, and he's truly playing a more hard-nosed physical style. Now, he's never going to be the most physical, and some of that is, he needs
shouldn't be. There's no reason for him to be.
Yes, because he needs to protect himself for his offensive capability as well. He needs to be available for this team. But, I mean, whether it's listening or / watching this show nowadays, and the numbers and the references of plays that we throw at you, and then you simply watching the games yourself, if you're watching the games, you are seeing the defensive plays that Cale Makar is making and the way he is using his body, and he's bigger and tougher nowadays. No, he is, and we talked even before this year about his underrated defensive ability. So if you're not seeing that this season, then you're quite simply not paying attention.
Yeah, and the one that I'll always go to, I don't have them in front of me right now. Like, if I can bring them up at some point, but like it would take me a while to go in and actually get those numbers in front of me and research it. But he is on the ice. His pairing is on the ice more often than the vast majority of pairs in the league against their opponents' top offensive players. And for Cale's numbers on the offensive side, while he is on the ice against the opponent's top offensive players and top puck possessors, for Cale's numbers and his expected goals, his chances for percentages to be as high as they are, and they are astronomical, right? Like, he's got like 78 cycle chances this year as a D-man, which is 45 more than the next highest player in the league. For his numbers to be that high when he's on the ice that consistently against the opposition's best forwards, that's all you need to know, right? Because in order for him to have those offensive numbers, the other guys don't have the puck. And if that doesn't compute great defense to you, I don't know how to talk hockey to you.
Yeah, no, and again, just watch it. Just watch it. If you're not seeing the defensive plays that Cale is making, the more physical nature to his game this season, I don't know what you're watching, because it is right there, and it's so it's so funny. We were talking about like Miro Heiskanen earlier being the Stars' best player. There's really only two right now, and Lane Hudson with the Canadians is interesting. But I will say this: dude, Quinn Hughes is playing extremely well right now.
Yeah,
He is
he's a great player.
he is carrying the Canucks. It is such a shame that there's nobody really. There's no McKinnon on that team. There's not even an Nichushkin on that team. Nobody to really help him out. And another reason why, shout out to Chris McFarland being so aggressive, that you have Kale, you have the forwards in Nate and Val. But look, Quinn is incredible. What I've seen Quinn do of late, man, he is selling me on really being right there below Kale. I was skeptical. I was like, man, there's no way that somebody could be like, because Kale, that's how good Kale is, right? But no, Quinn is right there. But still, even so, there's a clear number one, and his name is Kale McCarr.
Yeah, Quinn's great. He is top 20 in the league. Where Quinn is very, very good outside of being an elite offensive defenseman, is on the rush against. Like in the neutral zone, Quinn Hughes is very, very good. He's top 20 in the league in rushes against per minute played per 60. So you want to get some nose picker stats? There's a nose picker stat. Like he is a top 20 defenseman in defending neutral zone rushes and just making sure that like they don't happen against him. So that's also another undersized defenseman, right? So like those people who don't think that Cale Makar should be looked at as, again, if he stays healthy and on this trajectory, one of, if not the greatest defenseman ever to play the game of hockey, that's another small defenseman. That's another tiny guy, and tiny guys can't play defense, right? Offensive defensemen shouldn't be looked at as the greatest defenseman of all time, right? There's one for Quinn Hughes, and Cale does the same thing. So, I would just caution, just because he puts up points doesn't mean he's not a defender.
Well, Raj, I feel like we have slobbed over these guys enough for tonight. Whether it's Val Nichushkin, now Cale Makar, no slobbering over Nathan McKinnon tonight. I'm sure his night will come soon enough. He's been a little quiet of late, that Nathan McKinnon, but that's a great sign, Raj. That it's everyone else is having great games of late. And it used to be like, man, can somebody help Nate out? And now Nate's got more help than he's had probably since they won the cup. So I can't wait to glaze Nathan McKinnon coming up here, because I know his night's coming pretty soon.
Yeah, it sure is. He's going to go off at one point, hopefully to be on Thursday as the Avs take on the Kings, 8 p.m. puck drop at Ball Arena. We'll be on here sometime at 11 or so to be a late one. But for spring, I'm Raj. I'm out. Get it through your heads. Cale Makar is a complete defenseman and the very best on the goddamn planet. See you guys Thursday.